We might have been live before. There we go. A good Saturday to everyone. We're halfway through the West Coast road trip, the first ever ACC Virginia West Coast road trip. Happy to have you here on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know where you are in the country. If you're out in California, hopefully you're not in LA. But we've got a good crew here today. We've got Dougie Fresh coming to us from the frozen tundra up in New York. We've got Dave the Wave coming to us from some kind of construction site based on all the brickwork behind him. And I'm coming to you guys from Florida. Wow, halfway through this West Coast trip. I'm assuming the guys have adjusted to the time. We have not, by the way. I think the universal kind of sentiment was how brutal that 11 p.m. start was. And
yeah,
I was under the weather, so I did not participate. But for those of you who did, that's why you're at Locker Room Access. You're a complete maniac and a sicko, and we welcome that here. So hope everybody's having a good Saturday. We're tipping off against Stanford here in a little bit. But before we get into that, and Dave's going to break down Stanford a little bit, let's do a little post-game. A little post-op on Cal. It was not our best effort. And Fresh, I'll come to you first. You've had a chance now. I know you couldn't see it live. But you had a chance to review. What'd you think of the game plan and play from the UVA?
I think I'm the only one that has a semi-optimistic view of this. So I figured out if I was a real analyst, I probably would watch like Locker Room Access Forum while the live game's going. I wouldn't watch. And then I'd wake up the next day and I'd watch the game early after 2 cups of coffee, probably a snus, and I'd watch it by myself. So, you're looking for things that you saw those guys say, but then you're seeing what you really see. Like my buddy always says, your eyes lie to you all the time. I think we have a lot of good parts. I said this in the beginning of the season. I don't think we do a very good job at all of making the sum of those parts be as good as they could be. You can nitpick and say Isaac was 1 for 8, and I thought Rhodey. The other thing that's really glaring to me, I'm watching Rhodey in the first half. Second half, he scores two more baskets, and they're like Andrew Rhodey now with 11 points. I'm like, I felt like he had 25. When our guys go off, they're not going off.
Yeah.
And like IMAC, when IMAC has his mini avalanches and hits 3 threes, and he's made a couple free throws, he's done this, he's done that, and he's got 14 points at the end of the game. It's just we just don't score that way. But I think the sum of the parts, and this is a staff and players, but more the staff, is you got to figure out how to make that thing be its best.
Yeah,
easy for me.
I hear you. Look, the cupboard's not bare.
Right.
The ingredients just aren't going. They're not mixing well right now, and that's on the staff to kind of figure that out. Dave, you had some good points on form this week, and I want you to mention kind of your take, because you have a unique lens with your experience as a referee. But what did you see in the Cal game, and then talk a little bit about kind of what you saw as mismanagement by the refs.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it to Fresh, but I'll just say this. We've seen it over the years where we feel like if we play North Carolina or we play Duke, we're not going to get an equal whistle. And so you just have to be better than that, right? And a lot of times with Tony Bennett, we were, right, in those games, especially against North Carolina. But what I noticed, first of all, was just the physicality off ball. It felt like that was the main thing I didn't think was being officiated the same way. So they went to the line a ton for a lot of non-shooting fouls, gotten the bonus really early on non-shooting fouls. So the same type of cuts and holds and grabs and things like that we've seen against IMAC all year just isn't the same. Now, that being said, I went back and watched it. Stojakovic, constant movement, right? Rain Smith from Louisville. Remember, he hit 5 threes on us. Well, he hit 7. He was 7 for 11 today against Pitt in a great win for them on the road at Pitt. I watched him again. Constant movement. IMAC, Doug, you mentioned his passing. I think he 1 or 2 times a game, one-handed pass turnover, like clockwork, right? Well, I watched him again. His lack of movement on offense, I mentioned the effort and the intentionality on offense. There's a reason he went 1 for 8. It looked like he was tired, like it was midnight and he's used to going to bed at 8. That's kind of what it looked like to me. But when he goes 1 for 8 and then Saunders goes 1 for 8, and those are your two leading scorers, you're not going to have a chance. We don't have other guys that can come off that bench and score, 15 to pick up a starter like that. So my pluses, though, I've said I want to stay positive. Kofi's got to realize he's the best player on the team. He was a +4. There
I
wasn't
like that.
anyone
I
else on
like
the team
that
that was
comment from
plus.
you. Yeah.
To me, he's by far the only guy on the team who can go get a basket from anywhere, really. He can even dribble all the way in from the top, but if he gets it in the high post, if he gets it in the low post, he's the only one that I feel like it's always a mismatch skill wise. Like he can go get his own. There's really no one else on the team. Saunders, I feel like, is undersized in the post. He's not a great ball handler to get, to face up. Um, and then my other positive was Sharma, 3 for 7 for 3, didn't look afraid, quick trigger. He also, by the way, that was what I saw when I watched. He was the second best plus minus on the team too at -5. So -5
Yep.
for a freshman and a 14-point loss, pretty good. But I think really it's, I kind of said it in forum. I'd like to see Kofi getting 30 minutes unless he's in foul trouble, which he was. That's why he played 18 minutes. That's what really hurt us. And then I'd like to see Sharma getting a lot more of Isaac's minutes. Isaac just, I don't think he has the energy to play 37 minutes a game, which he did again.
Yeah, 37 is too much, and that's unfair
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
It is. It's too much, I think, for anyone. But when you play, when your hallmark is the pack line defense and there's so much energy spent there,
Yes.
it's almost like 45 minutes. It's like he's played more than a game. Fresh, let's talk about, you're our point guard here. Let's talk about the curious case of Day Ames. And I know we don't have like any insider knowledge on this, but as a guard, Ron mentioned in his press conference that Day needed to take care of the ball, yet he has less turnovers percentage-wise than Rhodey. So what do you think's going on with Day? Why is he in the doghouse, and what does he need to kind of get back on track?
I mean, all that's tough to say. I think the injury probably got to him a little. He had a very solid very first part of the season. He's not a pure point guard. We know that, right? And you saw a couple games in, you went from being the point guard, the John Crotty type, running the show, pointing and doing all the pieces, to he would give it back. He'd give it to Isaac or Andrew or Sharma, and he'd kind of go into that Allen Iverson slot. And not saying he's Allen Iverson. Somewhere along the way, I think he just got lost. I think he doesn't really understand what he should be doing. I think sometimes the way he makes turnovers, right, because he's maybe quicker, stronger, a little more aggressive with it, that the people can see that as being out of control. I don't think he is out of control. I think he wants to be a little more out of control than he is, if that makes sense. And it gets exacerbated. You know how there's turnovers where coaches see it and they feel like it's worse, so they jerk him, they yank him out, and then they double do it by talking about it afterwards. Well, he's got to get better with the ball, when that's not really the case. I think it's into, he's lost. What's my role? How much am I going to play at this point? Other guys named Sharma are playing a lot better and doing as well with the ball as he does. So he's just got it. If I were him, I'd start at the defensive end. I'd come in and really make my mark, shutting somebody down, and then the offense comes and you get more minutes. That's the way Virginia is anyway, right?
Dave, you've had good takes in the past around turnovers and what that means for us versus jacking up a shot early and how much better that is for us. Talk a little bit about that, because I appreciate your take on it.
Yeah, I think, I kind of said it in the last show too, was what I'm looking for in every game with these guys is how quickly they initiate offense. One thing I liked about Sharma last game, when he was the one bringing the ball up the court, that ball was across half court in 4 seconds, 5 seconds max. When Rhodey brings it up, it's like turn his back, dribble, and it's just because he's not a face-up wiggle point guard, right? He doesn't have that kind of handle. But when Sharma was doing that, that got us into our offense better. And the runs that we had, we got it close in the beginning of the second half again. When we have those runs, it's because we get into an offense quickly. I mean, even Tane had a transition 3, didn't go in, but That's a great point by Peggy as well. She read my mind. And then also on the rotations, when you're on a roll, 4 minutes into a half, and you get the game to a 2-point game, you don't sub in Power and Buchanan at the same time. From a rotation standpoint, I'd actually like to see Buchanan start, because Buchanan starting with the offensive players, with Rhodey, IMAC, Saunders out there, there's enough offense out there with Buchanan not having to be an offensive threat. And I would bring Kofi off the bench still quickly, but I would still bring him off the bench, because if he comes in with Power or with Sharma or Tain or whoever he comes in with, now you're bringing some offensive power off the bench. And instead of this, I mean, we've had games where we had less than 5 points off the bench, right, since Kofi started starting.
Well, you got to read the guys too. I feel like Peggy's point. A lot of times, I think Ron or the staff substitute because they're like, oh wait, Blake hasn't been in. He's going to be upset.
Yeah,
that takes care of that. Blake starts.
Yep.
I think somebody said, maybe it was you or somebody else on forum, seems that Ron 100% subs within the first 4 minutes.
I saw that. Yeah,
which seems like usually that far, which is a great observation by whoever. Can I tell you my biggest pet peeve with this team, with our teams? The very first basket of the game against who did we play? Cal. Cal scored whatever it was the first time they scored. The ball came. Kofi took it out of bounds and immediately looked for a guard to give it to bring it in bounds when he had Rhodey or IMAC right there. So I hate the nonsense of urgency. The other team scores, we're deflated. The pack line failed. That's not supposed to happen. We're mad. So Kofi, he's just the example. Instead of just getting to say go, it's a wide open court, get it and go. He's looking to give it to somebody else. And that's 5 more seconds, right? You're talking about Sharma bringing it up quickly and things like that. I think that would solve so much if we'd have the Ted Jeffries 1 foot behind the line, pull it out and get it to the guard, and everybody goes.
I was going to ask you that. Did you guys have a 1A and a 1B that were designated thrower inners after buckets?
Whoever was closest got it.
So whoever was closest. Didn't matter.
Yep. If the point guard, if I got it as a point guard, I'd take it. I'd hit Ted Jeffries, whoever, have to go if he wants, or give it right back to me and we go.
Right.
I think it's
for
a
us,
really
the point
good
guard wasn't allowed to, because you never wanted the point guard to take it out and everyone else run down. But everyone else could. So all 4 could. The point guard wasn't allowed to, because sometimes everyone else would hit and run down the court, and all of a sudden you get a 5-second call.
This is exactly. ACC basketball, right? You got to have a little bit of awareness, right?
I do think Dave brings up a good point, bringing Kofi off the bench. He's obviously been in some foul trouble. The games where he hasn't performed well, he's picked up early fouls.
Exactly.
And, if I was Kyle Smith, who's coaching Stanford, I'd go right. If Kofi starts tonight, I'd try to get a foul on him on the first possession and, get him off the floor. I do. And Fresh and I have talked about this. I'm really happy for Rhodey. I think he's proved a lot of people wrong, including me. He's playing much better than he did last year. My issue is that I think the opposing coaches are perfectly happy to let Rhodey be our leading scorer. And let him be in there. Now, I know points are points, but I'd rather have IMAC go for 20 than Rhodey go for 20, because there's just a difference there of like who's sort of leading. All right, we got to keep it moving. Stanford 10-5, 2-2 in the ACC. They just beat Bass Tech pretty handily. I didn't watch the game, Dave. You saw some of it, but it looked like a pretty comfortable victory. I think it was 11, right?
Well, actually, what happened, it was a tie game with 5 minutes left, and it was back and forth. Virginia Tech went out 16-4 right off the bat. And Stanford didn't get the first lead till midway through the second half, but then all of a sudden they did what teams have been doing to us, to Virginia Tech. Last 6 minutes of the game just pulled away from a tie game. In 5 minutes, they won by 11. Couple of guys, they actually have Renault, who is their center, 7'1", Euro French guy, who's actually on the Wooden Watch list for Player of the Year, averaging 21 points, close to 12 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, a block. Only turns it over 2 times a game as well. Not bad for a big who's handling the ball that much. Shoots it from 38% from 3. He takes 5 threes a game, so it's not low volume, right? So when I watch him, he takes his time. He's not sped up like you see the Europeans. Like,
He's a pro. He's
yes,
been
exactly.
playing.
Not,
He's a
like
pro player.
Jokic,
Yeah.
like Luka, like the guys who you see have that slow-mo kind of game in the post. He kind of does a lot of good pivot work in there. He's not super quick or agile, so I think Kofi can take him using his agility, definitely. Um, but he's going to have to, like you said, he's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. That's why I do like Blake picking up a foul or two early and then bringing Kofi in instead of him getting the fouls. Guard play, to me, I think their best player might be Sellers. He's also their best shooter. He's shooting 40% from three. He's averaging 14 a game. They also have Jalen Blake. So I think we recruited, if I remember right, a
Yeah.
little bit back in the day. He's averaging 15 a game. Not a great shooter. The team shoots 33% from three overall. Their best two shooters are Reno and Sellers, both above 38%. But that being said, we tend to give up late, hand up thinking we're closing out, and that does anything to shooters these days. So I think we got to definitely walk them off the line. They have those three guys who are actually five guys who take at least 3.5 threes a game. So they have all their starters take threes. I did see them give up a lot of open threes against Virginia Tech. Now, when I saw that, it was because Virginia Tech has two bigs. One's a 7-footer. One's Poteet, who's a man, right? He reminds me of Travis Watson's body.
Yeah.
6'10", strong guy that they had to be aware of, so they lost shooters sometimes. So we're going to have to find ways either to get it in the post or to penetrate. But they did give up a ton of open threes to Virginia Tech, and that's how they stayed in the game for the longest stretch. So can we get in the paint? Can we draw doubles? Or can we at least draw attention to get our shooters open? I think that's probably the biggest question on our offensive end.
Yeah, I'm going to come to Fresh, but I want to make two comments first. First of all, I guarantee with almost certainty that Renault, their big guy, has bad breath and smells terrible almost 90% of the time. He's a big Frenchman. And Fresh, we played against over in Monte Carlo. We played against those guys. He might have been on that team, even though
his uncle and dad definitely were on that team.
His uncle and dad were on that team. So this is a good team. A couple stats here. So I didn't realize this. It's not often we play a team where historically we've just had a really bad record against someone. If you're into your 100th game, whatever. Stanford leads us all time 7-1. The only game we've won against Stanford was in UVA, at UVA, in I think 92 when Fresh had his 5 threes, and we beat them really easily. So shout out to Fresh for going off against Mike Montgomery back there, back in the day. But here's my question now to my question for you, Fresh. We're 1-5 away from Charlottesville, right? And we're 0-3 in true road games. The only game that we've won away from Charlottesville in a neutral site was the Villanova game.
Yeah.
Is this something that matters to these guys? I mean, they've been out there a week. They've acclimated. Like, talk about, we went to Alaska for a week. We went to France for, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
They've been out there. They've been out there for a while. Is this and the students aren't back, so you're not walking into a Cameron Indoor. Is this anything that you'd be worried about as a player or coach?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny if you say this because all the new guys coming in when they're doing the fun little interviews on Twitter and Instagram, they're like, "Yeah, we heard about JPJ. This place is going to be great. Whatever." Sometimes the mentality things, right? Like, I would have been like, I heard it's great to play at Duke. I heard it's great to play at the Dean Dome. Oh, we're going to California. JPJ will take care of itself. Maybe there is something to that. Do they address it or not? I don't know. And by the way, it pains me to say that game you mentioned that we beat them in Charlottesville was 32 birthdays ago for me. How about that happen? I just realized that it was my 22nd birthday. And by the way, Dave, you'll like this. I come in off the bench and I'm just me. But I had a really good day shooting. Stanford went box and won on me, and I was just laughing with Montgomery. I was like, "You have to be kidding me!" Like,
she's a high school, I bet. You were like, "Wow, this feels great."
Nah, it doesn't. It's just not possible. It happened, but Yeah, but that's a great thing. That's a great point to make. And we know the West Coast trips are hard. It's not like NBA guys who are used to it and they're living out of their suitcases and stuff. But these guys travel a lot better than we do. We always stayed in the flyest places, so there's no chance. And the team took, shout out TW. They took a trip to Twitter and spent the entire day Twitch 2 days ago, which was pretty cool for LRA and everybody.
A lot of opportunity for our guys to, pick up a hemp sweater and eat some fish tacos out there in California. Dave, so we're heading into this game. They've got one of the premier players in the country, wooden watch list, right? A really good player. They've got some good guards, a guy that was a good player at Duke, but just couldn't break through because it's Duke. They've got the guy that you think is one of the better players. Like, how do we attack this? Are we going to go in with our stubborn mindset of we're gonna play Virginia basketball and lose by 18, or are we going to say, you know what, this is a perfect time to roll out some different things, whether it be we're going to run or we're going to play a little bit of zone. We did see a press against Cal for a little bit. But are we going to roll them out there to get beat, or are we going to try to play some chess? That's my question.
You're asking what they're going to do or what I'd like to see them do?
No, what do you think they're going to do?
I mean, I guess I'll believe it when I see it. You mentioned the press last game. Even then, they waited till it was 3 minutes left, 4 minutes left. I'm like, when they make a run and you're up, now you go from being down 2 to being down 9. That's when to do the press, right? When did Syracuse do it against us in 2016? They did it with 9 minutes left, right? Yep. They were like, nothing's working. Let's go to it. 9 minutes left. Get out of our zone. And all of a sudden, obviously, I still have nightmares about that game, right?
It was a bad one.
But it made seniors lose their minds, right? Anthony, it made Malcolm Brogdon look like a junior high player because all of a sudden it was something that we probably did not practice against and weren't prepared for, right? So it just goes back to here's the pattern I've seen. We hang in there, we hang there. About the 16, 15, 14-minute mark of the second half, we start the spread starts spreading, and then we start losing it. And people talk about endurance and that kind of thing. I guarantee you it's not that. Here's what it is. Okay. I'm a tennis guy. I play against, we play the first set, right? I've never played the guy. I'm feeling him out. What can he do? Can he volley? Can he do all this? By the start of the second set, I know what he can do. Right. Well, here's the thing. If he's a good player, he's not going to keep doing that the whole match either. He's going to change it up. Virginia never changes. We never change our offense. We never change our defense. So by about that 15-minute mark of the second half, the other teams are fully comfortable playing against us, know exactly what to expect, know what kind of defense we're running, know that we're trying to get IMAC around 5 screens, know that we can't feed the post, all those types of things. So it grows them in confidence, knowing they know exactly. I mean, think about an NFL defense if they only played nickel, or they only played 4-3, or they only played, no matter who the personnel was on the floor, on the field. It feels like, why can't we change it up? So to answer your question in a long-winded way, I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay.
We went to a press with 3 minutes left. We've never gone to a zone. I know Jay Willie's talked about that on the Jay Willie show a couple years ago, where he wishes they would go zone. Well, now's their chance. Why not go to a zone? Some against a Stanford team that's strength is in the post. So I don't think so, because I haven't seen it. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think we get caught up sometimes in what I'll call like losing the honorable way or the Virginia way. Like, I really want to see, if you look at, you can say what you want about Calipari or Coach K or even Dean Smith, who would occasionally get away from his principles. I think it's time we got to get away from this belief that we can trot our guys out there and guard and value possessions with our personnel. Like, we've got to try some wrinkles. So we'll see if that happens. All right, Fred.
I'll tell you that, back in the day, you played man-to-man, you played zone. It might be a 2-3, it might be a 3-2, it might be a matchup zone, it might be a 1-3-1. but you had them all in your package, and you had a press, you had a full court press, you had a 3/4 court press, you had a jump and run. You did all those things, and I'll tell you one reason, whether it was on purpose or not. If you do that as a team and you practice it at certain times during practice, it makes your team much better against it, right?
Yes.
Because you're playing each other all day in these things. Oh, there's a 1-3-1. Recognize it. Point guards, get set up, whatever it is. Point, do the roadie point. But when you're doing you do those 10-minute sessions of full court press. You doing the press makes you better at attacking it. You attacking it makes you better at defending it, and the whole thing. And if you just say we don't do that, you're never going to do it. You put the green team to press us to get ready for Louisville or whatever. No, it doesn't. It's not the same thing as Malcolm Brogdon and Gill and those guys pressing and beating down on you. And you're just trying to survive for your life in practice and not be embarrassed. Anyhow, what was the question?
It's got to be. It's a really good point. You have to have it, and I wrote something on forum. You have to have it in your package. You don't have to practice it daily or weekly. It's opponent dependent. So you're going to play teams with similar styles. That these three teams in the ACC tend to do this. So it's in there, and you get better at it, and you practice against it. It doesn't have to be a daily thing, but I have a feeling if we try to trot out our 7 or 8 guys that are going to play, and we try to play Virginia basketball against Stanford, we're going to lose. So that tells me we got to throw some off-speed stuff. We've got to throw a curveball. Nothing crazy. We're not running trick plays. Like, just have something a little different. But maybe the team is not there. All right, we got about 3 minutes left till tip.
By the way, Sharma's starting in place of Tane today.
Okay, nice. We got to. Oh, that's a nice milestone for him.
That's a huge milestone. I don't like it personally, but that's okay. It's not for me to like or dislike, but whatever.
No, I agree. I look. I think Rhodey is having success this year because they moved him out of the starting lineup. For a while there, he was coming in and doing well and fresh. You were always a big fan. I like Rhodey coming off the bench. He got
he's played himself into a starting role. You can't keep him off now because of the way he plays.
He got some confidence from that. I don't think it's a great thing when we have a different starting lineup every week, but I will say it's kind of time to experiment. And I'm not going to put that into the category of we're trying like new things, because I guarantee Sharma plays the same amount of minutes he did. He's going to be around the same amount of minutes. But all right, let's get to predictions here, and I'll write them down. Dave, by the way, I believe nailed. Were you spot on or like 1 point off? That was
1 point off. I said we either going to win 60-56 or we're going to lose by 15. And I was 1 point off. It was 75-61 instead of 75-60.
Okay, that's pretty good. That counts as a win. Fresh, I'll go to you first. Prediction on winner and score and MVP.
I'm just being appreciated for my honesty. I'm taking that one for myself, Julie. Thank you. Prediction. You know what? I'm torn on this one. I think it's a tougher place to play. I have no idea atmosphere, all that. I don't really care. But I think I've ever done this. I think it's going to be 65-55 Stanford Cardinal. I think Adam Keefe, your name here, is going to be sitting on the sideline somewhere, and he's going to coach the big French guy with bad breath and body over up to about 36 points. There's going to be a lot of fouls in the Who's. They're going to go to the free throw line a lot. We're getting cheated on the West Coast, as we know it's different. So what I say, 65-55 them. I think Isaac's going to come back, did some soul searching. He got his shot back at Twitch, not on the court. He wasn't on the court working on it. He got his shot back at Twitch with TW, and he's going to kind of go off today.
All right, I like it.
I like doing this.
All right. I know it's uncomfortable for you. We did some calculations. I've picked against Virginia 87% of the time for 5 years. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Dave, what do you got for me? Score, who's going to win, score, and then who is our MVP?
Yeah, my head's I was right in that same ballpark, like 67 56 loss with one caveat. If Saunders can score 20, he doesn't have a huge guy he has to play today. So size-wise, kind of reminds me a little bit of Jaden Gardner struggling against kind of the taller length when he played
Yeah.
for us. If he can come back and have a good game, he's going to draw attention, which will get Sharma and McNeely looks. If Saunders is swallowed up again, we'll struggle. So I'll say that I think it's a 10, 11 point game. But if Saunders can go off, that should free up the other guys to give us a chance. But we have to mix it up. And if we keep playing just straight vanilla man-to-man all game, I don't see it. But anyway, there you go.
All right, I'm going to go, since you guys both picked Stanford, I'm the eternal contrarian. UVA wins this one, and we're going to score a lot of points. We're going to win 75-68.
Whoa.
And
that's fresh.
Yep. We're going to win 75-68. And I agree that IMAC is going to, we'll go back. He'll redeem his shooting percentage. He'll have a good game. I think this is going to be the TJ Powers going for 12 today. Easy. He's my guy today. So we'll see. We could certainly use him.
I would like to say we're 1-7 all time against them.
1-7.
So is Fresh the all-time MVP against Stanford at this point?
There you go.
Maybe I want us to lose.
Yes, I think
no idea. I'm sure Buzzy Wilkerson gave him 73 in 1952 or whatever, but I'm going to go with the modern era, even though it was 32 years ago, as I said.
You know we haven't scored 75 all season yet, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I think the amount of fish tacos that we've eaten as a team together, that we're going off. And
get some Pier 59 tacos, huh?
Yes.
Dave, I'll give you a personal story. You talked about Kofi needing, and I love that comment. Needs to say, "I'm the best player in this team," whatever that entails. A friend of mine has said it from the beginning. He's a huge Kofi guy. He was at the SMU game. He sat next to his parents, I guess his mom and maybe his stepdad, I think was the case. And my friend's extreme. He's a huge Virginia guy. He's uber positive, never a negative thing to say. That's right, Jim. And he turned to his parents and said, your son, Jacob, is the best player on this team. He's the best basketball player. And it's his third or fourth game, whatever it is, first SEC game. And his parents were taken aback in a good way, like, oh, wow, we don't know. I don't think he's the best player, right? The other players must be better. But it was kind of a cool thing that he sat next to him and he's, giving that positive energy. And let's hope it can translate.
Yeah. Hey, we need it today.
We need Mrs. Colby or whatever. I'm not sure what their last names are. Let's be nice to that kid. He's doing good things.
The other thing Kofi and Saunders have to do is do what Ty Jerome learned how to do. Don't get 2 fouls in the first half. Don't get 1 foul in the first 10 minutes. They got to stay on the floor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. All right. Join us at halftime when we're up. Actually, halftime will be close, and then we're going to pull away. Let's go Hoos. Let's get this one. We need this one.
Go Hoos.
Not only for the record, but for the morale of the program. Let's get one today. Go Hoos.
All right. See you guys at half. Go Hoos.
See y'all.